I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call roll, please. Lee.
Aye.
Childers. Here. Collins. Here. Owen. Here. Vessler. Sullivan. McGrath. Here.
Thank you. First, are there any public comments? Sean, you? Check. Is there any,
No.
No comments?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, we have updates from the superintendent, Ken.
Screens to come up. Here they go. Sorry, I made that so dark. You guys see that open like that? Okay, a couple of things. One, board members, there's a book out in front of you today from Tony Wagner. Some of you may remember a few years ago we had Tony Wagner as our keynote speaker. Encourage you to take a look at the book because it really resonates with a lot of the things that we've been working on in District 207 with our goals and plans to improve college and career placement for our students. So tonight, I'm going to give an abridged version of the presentation that we gave on opening day that talks about some of the goals we're working on in District 207. Just an update of what's going on. Paula mentioned that we have a news story out, I think right now. Maine South made the Newsweek list this year. So I think it's a first for us for one of our schools to make all three Washington Post, U.S. News and World, and Newsweek lists in 1 year. Of course, all three of the schools made U.S. News and World and Washington Post earlier, so that's really good trends. And I asked Don to do an update on our class of 2015 trend analysis, which is, these are new slides that we just got updated last week. We have our class of 2015 ACT data included in this slide. Last year I told you that we had the 7th highest ACT means in district history in the last 7 years, and I'm pleased to report tonight that now it's 8 years. We have the highest mean ACT scores in the last 8 years, despite two trends that would suggest otherwise, and that is our students are year over year getting poorer, our free and reduced numbers are going up, and our diversity is going up. If you have either one of those variables over time, generally you have an inverse declining relationship with your student performance. And in fact, the class of 2015's mean ACT of 22.7 is the 3rd highest in district history. So we have 8 consecutive years of the highest mean ACTs that we've had. So that's really good news for the quality of our instructional program and the job that our buildings are doing. Again, this is our ethnicity trend line. This is a demarcation point, 59.5 Caucasian population in District 207. It's the first time since we've been tracking this in district history that it's fallen below 60%. And you can see that our, just a basic linear projection, we look to be a majority minority district in about 2023, 2024, somewhere in that range. So that's a good thing. What makes District 207 special is the diversity that we have among our students. The United States is projected to be a majority minority country in about 2044, so we're about 20 years ahead of the rest of the country. So what this speaks to, though, is something that's vitally important all the way up from the classroom to the boardroom, and that is the need for us to continue to get better. Our degree of difficulty of our students is increasing year over year. In fact, you know, the performance that we've been able to have against those trends, I think, is pretty remarkable. But there's not really a point in the future where you can say, okay, we can sort of coast. And in fact, what's going to happen, and it's clear based on our trend analysis, we have to continue to get better. There's just no other alternative for us to meet the needs of an increasingly needy student population. We've got to get better ourselves in terms of what we do. Our challenge indexes, and again, you can track those over time. We have set a goal, and that's one of the goals that we'll talk about tonight, is to move all of our buildings by 2020 or sooner to a 3.0 challenge index. We believe we can do it. Some may be quicker than others, but we're putting specific plans in place to find a way forward to do that. And that's embedded not only in my goals, but the goals of the principals and the goals throughout the district. So we're working very hard to try to find a way to increase accelerated learning for our students. And we're not just doing it in District 207, because we work with 3 really good elementary districts. So we've had preliminary meetings with District 62, 63, and 64. And in fact, I'm meeting with those 3 superintendents on Thursday, and we're going to continue the conversation about growing the accelerated learning in those districts so that our students, when they come to Maine East, to Maine South, and Maine West, are more ready to do accelerated learning. If we're going to grow this index, we have to really do it in partnership with our elementary districts.
Ken,
Yes.
do the trends for, that you were just talking about in terms of diversity, and I imagine District 62 is, 62 and 63 are more diverse. Do those follow the same testing? Like, do you see lower testing scores there because of the diversity?
Yes. If you pulled out, if you separated 62, 63, and 64, 64 has higher. Now they're on a different testing system than we are, but their year-over-year, grade-by-grade tests are generally higher. They're less diverse, and District 64 is less diverse and it's more fluent. And generally, there's a direct linear correlation between affluence and state test scores. So if we teased out those 3 districts, we would see differences between the 3 districts. And same kind of profile that we have. I mean, we're facing really the same challenges. We've got the same student population. So the good news is that we've had good success with all of the elementary districts and partnering and really helping us work to get better. And you know, they do a very nice job, and I think they're going to be very helpful in this mission to, you know, increase the accelerated learning. One of the things that we're really trying to do is tackle just how kids are tracked. Because often if a student doesn't get into sort of an accelerated level in even grade school, they sort of stay there and don't progress out. So we're looking at ourselves to see what we can do better in District 207, but we're really going to challenge our elementary districts to take a look at that variable as well. Because the research is pretty clear, once you sort of get into that lower level track, you never really get out, and the outcomes are not improved by being in there. And so we're going to really challenge our kids and our partner districts to do more to accelerate learning. And we're going to step up to the challenge ourselves. We already have, and we're going to continue to do that. And again, these are our challenge indexes, and you can see over time, you know, South was our first school to get to 2.0, but East right now is our highest index, and it's done a really nice job of really, I think, challenging its students at East and West more recently is really picking up and hopefully can catch up to the other 2. And I feel pretty confident that by 2020, we can reasonably have all 3 schools either at a 3.0 or certainly close and on the road to get a 3.0. We have districts around us that have done it, and we can do it as well. So let's talk a little bit about why the Tony Wagner book is important and why college and career counseling is important. The class of 2015, graduating class of 2015, college graduates, is the most indebted in U.S. history. They have a mean debt of $33,000. If you look at the chart here, this is the relationship between income levels of college graduates and the debt levels. And you can see that the debt is far outpacing the earnings line. Now, if we moved out past 2012 and got to 2014, 2015, there is a little improvement in real time right now with earning levels, but it isn't keeping pace with debt. Right now, there's about $1.3 trillion in total college debt for recent college graduates. And so part of what's a big piece of our college and career counseling is an attempt to do a better job with our students, with their families, so that they make better decisions, they get into the right school, the right program, they go to school, and they know why they're going to school, so that there is a saleable living at the end of the career that they pick. And that's a really big piece of this. So a simple vision is, your son, your daughter comes to one of our schools, and we will be informed by information they're actually sharing with their junior high. I think I want to be a doctor, for example. And we had young lady that I spoke to this summer, Isabel, who's a recent Maine East graduate, knew in 8th grade that she wanted to be a physician. She's at Wash U right now, wants to be a physician, and if she were going to school now, ideally what we would do is by about her junior or senior year, we would pair her up with a local physician, and we would give her an opportunity to shadow and do whatever level of internship she could do. And that has value in many, many ways. Hopefully it can confirm what the student thinks they want to do and help them make a really good decision about going on to college. It may change their mind. They may, after doing an internship, decide there's no way I could do this. And there's value in that as well. So making sure that students are as well informed as they can be about things that they think they want to do is really, really important. This year, and this is one of the goals that I'll mention again here in just a minute, our freshmen this year are each going to identify 2 career pathways. This is the first build out of our individual career plans for students. So we're building this thing as we go. We've done a lot of work on it, and I'll talk here in just a minute on another slide about why that's so important. But there's 2 elements that I want to talk about before we leave this slide. One is the AP Equity Act, which just passed about a month and a half ago, and what it says in the state of Illinois, if you take an AP class and you get a 3 or above on your AP exam, you are guaranteed credit at any state, college, or university in the state of Illinois. That's a really big deal, because until just recently that didn't happen. And so our students taking these AP exams had no guarantee that they could get college credit for them, and this is a big deal. The second piece of this, and this is another really big piece, is the dual credit issue. Dr. DeVarga and I have been working actually for a long time. Barb's work goes back to her time even at Glenbrook, and my work goes back to when I was in Dr. DeVarga's position here in District 207. Trying to build out a robust set of dual credits. In many parts of the United States, students can go to high school and earn even an associate's degree by the time they graduate high school. Illinois, interestingly, has probably one of the top 2 or 3 or 4 community college systems in the country, but there's no articulated game plan on how to build out dual credits. And I'll give you one source of frustration. Been trying to get English 101 here in District 207 for 11 years. English 101 is the most commonly taught dual credit course in America. And we have had one litany of reasons after another about why we can't do it. And so it's just, we're to the point where we're going to start looking for some other solutions. But having dual credits in an array of options for our students is one way that we think, A, we can enlist some students who otherwise might not think of themselves as college students. Build a transcript for them even before they leave us, which will reduce the amount of time and the amount of money that they would have to spend in college. Again, trying to impact outcomes for our students and for their families. So this is a really big piece of the equation here. Dr. Laura Cook is in the front row here with us. Most of you have met her. If you haven't, this is our career coordinator for District 207, and she's been with us in this position for 1 year. This charts the work that she's done in 1 year. And the blue line indicates the number of students who are in our internship program. The red line indicates the number of business partners who have joined with us and who have said, we will take your students as interns. This is her work in 1 year. She, along with Dr. DeVarga, along with Becky Stewart and Kim Jablonski, who are Career and Technical Education District Department Chairman, we held about 15 community meetings last year where we brought business partners in. And it was just really, really overwhelming. We still have a lot of work to do, but it's the beginnings of where we need to go. Now the next slide gives you a sense of where we have to go to scale up to accommodate about 1,750 students to do internships. And part of the equation here is, and this is a rough estimate, it isn't, you know, the blue line is accurate, the red line, we're not 100% sure, because we are reimagining what an internship looks like. Our current internship, student takes a class, they're in it for a semester, they get credit. We're going to have to reimagine that, because there are plenty of our students who will never take that internship class for a whole bunch of reasons. They don't have the time in their schedule, it's not a weighted grade, it's any number of other reasons. So we're going to have to think about internships that happen over winter break, that happen over spring break, that happen during the summertime. We may even have to consider blended or even virtual internships. So we're going to have to really think imaginatively about how to deliver internships for this many students. But one thing that is absolutely abundantly clear to us, and I'm saying this and I'll put this in context soon about the economics, because generally we are definitely in a holding pattern economically, but in this particular area, we are going to have to staff, and one of the things that we're probably going to have to do is come back to the board and move Dr. Cook from a 10-month to a 12-month position. We'll probably even need to fill behind her. To get to where we need to go, we're just going to have to enlist some help. We're also going to take a look at our existing resources in the building and try to reimagine their jobs as well in terms of how to help build this out. It's a long journey, and we're committed to it because we believe very strongly that it will serve our students and their families in the best possible way. So Dr. Cook has done just tremendous work for us this year. We really feel strongly that we're going to be able to build this out over the coming years. And this is the area where we really feel like we can get better. Now, this is a district profile. If you pulled out the buildings, it would look a little different by buildings. And what this does is this talks about the class of 2007 and outcomes 6 years out. The maroon right here tells you what percentage of students ended up with a degree. So it's about 50%. The orange, these are kids who are still retained in college, still tracking. The blue is kids that returned after being out some time. The yellow is they're no longer enrolled, and the purple is we don't know. And part of the problem, and the reason it's hard to track this, and board members this will be familiar to them because Dr. DeBard has been working with the National Student Clearinghouse for, 3 or 4 years now. It's the best data that you can get on the topic. Years ago when NCLB started, the idea was every kindergartner who started school would have a unique ID number. And regardless of whether they went to school in Idaho or Utah or Illinois, that ID would track through them all the way through college, so that at the federal level, we'd be able to know with precision outcomes for students. We track that at the high school level, at the K through 12 level. We track it everywhere the student goes, every outcome we're held accountable for. Are they in school, are they out of school, do they drop out, do they graduate? We have to track all of that, but when they leave us, that doesn't happen anymore, so we have to pay for services like the National Student Clearinghouse. But this is where we can get better. What does 50% mean? Well, based on the best estimates, that's about twice the success rate of the rest of the United States, which is about 25% of students who are getting degrees 6 years out. So we're at a district level, we're twice as good as the rest of America, but we can be way better. And we can be way better in 2 important ways. One, we can grow this bar. There is no doubt in my mind we can grow this bar, that within 6 years out, we can increase that to 60 or 70 or beyond, but it really means a strategic approach to serving students, to helping them understand why they would go to college, to training, to do whatever it is, helping them see a pathway, linking with Oakton, hopefully to help them create a vision and a pathway for a lot of our students. And then secondly, of those 50%, what the current research suggests is about 1 out of 2 of these students is underemployed. They're my son's roommate who had a degree in poli-sci from DePaul and was selling appliances at H.H. Gregg, which is a perfectly honorable way to earn a living. Fortunately, he just got accepted and just started last week at WashU in law school. But it's that kind of a student that is technically underemployed, has a degree, but isn't working at a job that's commensurate with the degree that they have.
I want to make sure you're not diminishing a political science degree, right?
No, but the point is, first of all, political science jobs.
That's it, just checking it, or reminder.
Yeah. Just know that if you get one, you probably have to do something else with it. You probably got to go to law school or something else.
Or run for school board.
Or that. Or something incorporated. Thank you for that. So.
This doesn't capture any training, like any kind of union training or anything
Well,
like that, it doesn't?
That's a big piece of the puzzle, because part of what I think we're going to have to do, Terry, is we're going to have to reimagine what college means. Everyone has this default setting of what college is. The truth is, take manufacturing. Chicago is a great manufacturing center, was, always will be. The mean manufacturing job in Chicago pays $73,000, and a lot of those jobs you can get without a traditional 4-year degree. they can be certification, they can be associate's degrees. And a lot of the manufacturers that we partnered with will tell you, if we get a student who has really good acuity, a good work ethic, and they want to go become a manufacturing engineer, we'll pay for them to go to school. So that you're right on that. We need to think differently. And I've got a slide coming up that'll speak a little bit to this too, Gary, about why we've got to be more precise and have a much broader imagination, or understanding is a better word, of where the jobs are and what skills it takes and what degrees it takes to get there.
Ken,
Yes.
I'm sorry, you threw out, like, we'd like to get that 50% up to about 75%.
I want to grow it. I'm not going to say where it would end, but I just know we can do better. We can improve. I don't have a fixed number in
Well, I'm
mind.
just trying to get a feel, I mean, some kids aren't, maybe gonna ever finish college, or maybe it's not right for them, and I'm just wondering if that 75% was sort of, came from anywhere.
I just know we can do better than 50. I don't, but I'll come back to that, because I do have an answer to that. I just don't want to answer it right now.
Can I ask a question about the purple?
Yes.
How do we not know we're 13.6?
Because the National Student Clearinghouse partners with a lot of colleges and universities, just not 100% of them. So those
So they could be in college.
They could be in college, they could
Okay.
be graduates. They just might be in schools that are in the National Student Clearinghouse, and ergo, the difficulty of us tracking success. Now, one of the questions, when we met with the business partners, this slide was, how do you measure success? If District 207 said, our job is to get kids through high school, get them graduated, get them into a university, and shake our hands and say, we're done, we're good, we're successful. But I think the work that we're trying to do by following up with kids, by tracking their outcomes, by trying to improve their outcomes, that's the stuff that really, I think, can make our district and communities better. Because if we can get kids who make the right choice about whatever it is, whether it's a trade school, whether it's a certification, whether it's a associate's degree, whether it's a four-year degree or beyond, if we can make them match that to their passions, ideally in a perfect world, where they're working at something they're passionate about, where they can make a living at and move out and not have a ton of debt. The story that I tell one of my community advisory council members is a salesman. He gave this presentation to them a couple times last year. He said, I've got a client whose son went to Carthage and majored in theater. And very passionate about theater, graduated from Carthage in theater, and didn't get into the troupe that he wanted to get into. And he left Carthage with $75,000 of debt. He's working in Milwaukee at a job that's paying $14 or $15 an hour. And they amortize that, he's gonna be paying that debt for 20 years at, $500, $600 a pop or whatever a month. It's a big load. Well, that student in particular, probably we need to be specific, and this is not one of our students, by the way, but it's a good case study. If that were one of our students and we were counseling that student, first thing we want to know is, Mom and Dad, do you have the money to pay for Carthage and let him get through there without debt? And the answer to that question is important, because if the answer is no, then perhaps what we need to suggest is Illinois State has a wonderful theater program, and you can go there and maybe he's got $20,000 of debt, but the outcome for that on a big picture scale is much better. So we have to get a lot better with having those kind of conversations and understanding the economic piece of what it means to get a college degree and how much is worth it, how much debt is worth it relative to the income you can expect. There are plenty of theater majors who don't become Meryl Streep.
Also, can at the same time, actually, students does not really concern or listen to the parents' financial situation, which means, let's say parents says, hey, I cannot afford to take you to XYZ universities and so on. Can you kind of go to other low, moderate, affordable school? The kid says, hell no. I want to go to out of state, UCLA or Northwestern private university and so on. And most of the financial burden will be coming from the parents.
And if that's the, I mean, we can't make anybody do anything, but what we can do, what our responsibility is to do a better job of informing. Because I think that's our responsibility, is just make sure that everybody's fully informed. If someone wants to borrow $250,000 or they debt their child $250,000 over to Northwestern, that is their choice, and we will never stand in the way of that. But I think they have to be fully informed. And there are some schools that incur in the cycle of debt. I mean, if you're going to Harvard Medical School, a couple $100,000 of debt is probably a good debt. But if you're going for other things, for that kind of debt, it's probably not good debt. And at the end of the day, you know, parents, families can make these choices, but our job, I think, is just to have them as well informed as possible.
Well, in addition to maybe our school's opportunity is closely working with the students to educate them the reality of financial situation, and they have the choices to go to like what you have recommended to.
Yeah. So here's why Terry's question is really important. This is actually some data that Dr. Cook pulled from, and this is Maine Township. The nice thing about Maine Township is it's big enough and diverse enough that it scales out really well to the rest of Illinois, and it scales out really well to the rest of the country. These are the top 100 jobs in the education required to get those 100 jobs. And you can see that about a third of the jobs require a high school diploma or GED. Now, these are the entry-level jobs that many of us, when we were kids, the first jobs that we worked. Now, here's the picture today, however. A lot of people, a lot of working adults are parked in these jobs, which stops a lot of our high school kids from being able to get some of these entry-level jobs. So you've got a lot of working folks who are working at McDonald's and are working there long-term, and they're not moving in the system. And that's a function of a whole lot of things that we're not going to get into tonight. Another third of the jobs require a 4-year degree or plus. If you're a physician, you get hired an advocate, you've got an MD and other degrees. If you're an accountant and a CPA, you've got your CPA degree. And that's, if you're a teacher for us, you've got a bachelor's or a master's degree, and that's in this pot. But a full, nearly 41% of the jobs, the top 100 jobs, require an associate's or training, and training is a certification. So you get a CNC mill certification. Used to be when I went to school, kids got, they got trained how to weld, they got trained how to be machinists. And those often led to journal licenses, they often led to an associate's degree, and we've kind of gotten away from that. And there are a lot of jobs in this segment that are good paying jobs, that are highly skilled jobs, and are worthwhile jobs that we sort of, in an NCLB world, we sort of forgot about. And so that's the point, that's what this slide really represents.
So top 100 is based by salary?
It's based by distribution, where the jobs are. Not all these jobs are equal. Not all these jobs are equal, but it's based on distribution.
So what does top mean?
If you took who's hiring, okay, the top 100, so if the
So volume?
volume,
Oh,
openings.
all right.
Yeah, it's who's hiring, yeah, so it's top 100. Yeah, available jobs, or not only available jobs, but projected available jobs. So
Okay.
it's really where the jobs will be. And that's a snapshot. This is our district, but again, you could take this study and you could probably scale it out to the state. You could go to most metropolitan areas in the country and you would see a really similar profile. This is not new news. Wagner, the book that I put in front of you tonight, will speak to this very topic. And it's just, what happens is, I think for a long time, we've gotten this default setting, and it's dicey, we've gotten this default setting that every student's going to college. We haven't thought about what that means and what that means, and now we're importing welders into this country, for example, because we don't have enough, we haven't done a lot with our trades. So it's a difficult conversation. So we put out last year in the journal, we put out an insert that talked about this with a great deal of specificity, and under the heading of No Good Deed Goes Unpunished, one of my former community advisory council members emailed me and said, Ken, I was talking with some of my friends in Parkridge, are kids from Maine South not going to have to go to college anymore? I said, no, that's not what this means, but it illustrates the difficulty that this, even the very topic, really can engender. And so this is another piece where when we began this work a little over a year ago, we brought the elementary districts in here as well, because this conversation really needs to start even in the elementary districts. And many of the elementaries are doing a pretty nice job with this. I think we need to continue to get better at this, is to really grow our understanding of where the jobs are, what it means, and sort of help people at least have a full picture of what the data says and what the real information is. Okay, last piece of this, I want to talk a little bit about just some impending things. This is a slide, and it is what it is, fiscal stewardship. And I worked with Mary last week. We kind of took a look at who are the districts around us. Most of these are CSL districts. These are per pupil costs. And what you can see here is what we have done from a fiscal stewardship standpoint in terms of our per pupil costs. We've done the rarest of things. We've gotten more efficient economically, and we've improved academically. That is literally what everybody's trying to do. We are in a very competitive league with people who spend, these are the people against whom we compete for teachers, for top teachers. So these are the people that, folks in our community, they expect us to have schools like these, and I think we are doing it, and we're doing it in as fiscally responsible way as you possibly can. The adjusted budget number gives you the amount of dollars in millions that we would have to spend in District 207 to spend at the level of these other districts. So I just point this out because I think, one, we are paying our teachers a very good wage. We've always paid our teachers a good wage. We need to continue to pay our teachers a good wage because, again, these are the people against whom we're going to compete. We're at a time right now when schools of education are reporting lower enrollment. It is important for District 207 that we remain competitive. And so I think I'm just putting this out there to you in the context of the things that are happening at the state level right now and the impending things that we've been planning for.
Ken, just a quick question, right before the screen. Why there's a kind of somewhat big difference between the cost per pupil for Niles 219, for example, and our main township for 207, because they're right next to each other in a way?
I can't speak to them. What I can speak to is District 207. We have worked very, very hard in this district to be as lean and efficient as we can be. We're not perfect, but we've really worked hard to make sure that we're very efficient, that we're being good stewards of dollars, and we're making sure that we're not understaffed, but we're not overstaffed. Yeah. And it's always a constant piece of work.
Cost per pupil don't include all expenditures, capital expenditures, and so forth?
It includes the debt portion of capital expenditures.
And Niles just in turn on do a whole bunch of development.
Actually, every one, except maybe Evanston, I know Highland Park, Niles, Northfield, New Trier, all have passed referendums since tax cap. I'm not sure about Evanston.
Well, Evanston, I know when Katie was here, put in that pool and the training pool in the back. So they had spent the money and they had the bond debt beforehand. So even if they didn't do it before tax cap, they certainly had the debt. But that's a substantial difference for us.
And you raise a really good point. So, and it's an arbitrary thing where some districts at tax caps went out and borrowed a lot of money, so they would have a debt extension. We didn't have any debt. We borrowed a little bit of money. We have $1 million. We probably could, if we had 7 or 8 a year, we could do whatever we need. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But you do raise a really good point. But even with that, Sean, even if we did have debt extension, we can still come in below these numbers. I'm pretty confident of that. I mean, when you're talking about the next closest is a $21 million difference, we can do some things and still come in well below that. So we live in tax caps, and this is an 8-year profile. So people are talking about doing a hard property tax freeze. Well, we effectively did that in 2008. We had 0.1%. That's as close to doing a property tax freeze as you can do. You can see our 8-year average is 1.6%. We've lived within that. We have not asked for levies above that. We are talking about, at the state level, a property tax freeze for schools only. It has, my last understanding, and Terry, correct me if I'm wrong, but municipalities, because of fire and police, those have been deemed essential services. I kind of feel like schools are essential services, but they have not been given the same amount of latitude. I asked Mary to prepare, some projections for what a hard property tax freeze would mean for us. It's a substantial amount of money, and it's lost forever. We have been anticipating a couple of variables for a number of years. We have been anticipating some or all loss of state funds, and that's several $1 million potential loss annually of state funds. We have been anticipating some potential pension cost shift. Well, now we've got the third rail potentially, which is a property tax freeze. And what's difficult is that everyone sort of is thrown in together. I think the last slide illustrates really good stewardship on the part of District 207, and yet it is possible, if one or more of these things come to pass, that it could tip us into a structural deficit where now, already operating at a very lean level, we could really start getting into programming and doing some things that are very difficult. So our challenges are mighty. Mike is here tonight. I can tell you that the MTA has been really good partners with us. They've helped us take a really long view on some things. But if a number of these things happen quickly enough, we're going to really be faced with some hard decisions. And so I'm putting that out there. Terry and I attended the EdRed meeting the other day, and it's some pretty sobering news. It's a little unfortunate because it sort of feels that schools and schools alone are being singled out. And I think it's a much more holistic set of issues. I understand the state needs to do some things, there's no doubt about it. But I would like for people to just stop and really assess the impact of things before proposing things that will cause some of America's best schools, and that includes all three of our District 207 schools, to perhaps have to change programming and the programs that have helped make it the great schools that they are. So again, really maximizing a career and college readiness for each student, increasing rigor, that's really growing our AP footprint, challenging indexes, increasing those. We're working on our curriculum instruction framework, trying to improve our lesson planning. The board has already heard some of the things that we do in instruction here in District 207. We've been very innovative in it. We're going to continue to be innovative. We're doing things in this district that really nobody pretty much anywhere is doing. We're working this year to lower our student fee costs, to improve community communication. One of the big things that we're going to take a look at is really thinking differently about time and space. We've got 3 pretty old buildings in this district. 2 of them are mid-century, one is early 20th century. A typical profile in our building is we've got a boiler that had a 30-year lifespan and we're on year 50. There's a real cost for just maintaining the buildings that these communities have made a commitment to. Our communities have not gone out and built new schools. I don't see them going out and building new schools, but times change. So we're going to have to consider 2 factors, and it's really related to the point that Sean made earlier. We've got to take care of the schools that we've got. We're spending $10 million of cash on the improvement at West this year. It's probably going to be the last significant cash improvement that we're able to do until a lot of these issues get settled, because we're not going to spend our cash balance down in a deficit other than a planned deficit, which is what we're doing this year. So we probably will be a little bit more cautious moving forward. We've got to consider other strategies to make sure we can pay for the buildings, and frankly, we have some improvements in our buildings that they all need. We put together a 10-year plan that was really bare bones. It was just stuff that's going to break and wear out. We really need to think a little bit bigger and broader. We also need some specific improvements. West, we're building out what would hopefully be, the extension that one day would be the field house that, they were promised 4 decades ago, and we've never been able to get that done. There are things in each one of our buildings that are simply going to have to be done, and we're going to have to think as a community about what it takes to do that and what the commitment is to do that. We're going to talk about class schedule, bell schedules this year. We're going to talk about online learning this year, and we've set a goal to get at least 1 senior level course in each building next year to be an online or blended learning environment, where students wouldn't necessarily be in a class first period every day. They may come once a week or some iteration of that. We don't have any preconceived notion what that will be. But when you start doing that, things like internships, now you've created some time in a student's day where now we've got some flexibility. Also, what does that do for our teachers? You've created some time in their day, which helps us do some things with teachers. So we're going to think a little bit differently about time and space this year and start moving forward. Isn't anything radical or anything new, but it's something that I think will help us move into the 21st century and be a little bit more creative in meeting the needs of our students. And then finally, recruitment, development, and sustainability of staff. And it isn't just competing for staff, but the right staff. So I mentioned earlier, I've gone back and done as much inferencing as I can. I found some things in our payroll. They had some pay sheets for some of our teachers from the 1950s. And so I'm curious and kind of a data wonky guy, and I'm looking up and I'm trying to go back and see how far, standard of living, and the federal government's track standard of living. It doesn't go back that precisely, but you can go back pretty far. And so based on what we were paying our teachers in 1950, we were paying them a really good, fair wage for the 1950s. District 207, I think, has always paid its teachers pretty well. That die was cast long before this board and these people in this room were here. It happened, it's going to happen long after we're here. And we're going to have to continue to think in this district about making sure that we can recruit good teachers. In the next 10 years, we have about 125 people in this district who will retire. In the 5 years immediately after that, from about 25 to 30, we have that many more in only 5 years. So about 250. Right now, schools of ed, enrollment is down. And it's down for a whole bunch of reasons. It's down for a bunch of reasons. I ran into, I grew up at 704 North Main in my hometown. Sherry, my friend, grew up at 804 North Main. We went to the same parish. The bus stop was out in front of her house. I ran into her this summer, and my brothers are opening down in Huntsville, as it turns out. She's been teaching in Indiana for 21 years. She's an elementary teacher. She makes $41,000, and she hasn't had a raise in 7 years. That's what a lot of the world looks like right now. And that's why enrollment in school of education in our home state, where she works, is down. That's why. So I don't want us to be like that. I don't want this state to be like that. I don't want this district to be like that, because if it does, the landscape's going to change. So we have to be in a position to continue to recruit, perhaps against the supply that might be diminishing. So we have to be attractive financially. We have to be attractive for the environment that we have here. We're trying to get better about the science of hiring, and we're really working hard at that. But I think that's going to be a crucial issue for District 207 moving forward. And for the quality of the programs that we're going to need to continue with degree of difficulty factors that are going to continue to grow in this district. I think the trend lines that we started with, I don't think those are going to change. I think those are set for the time being, and I think so our need to get better is going to always be there. So I'm just putting that out there in front of you. My goals are wrapped up in this. The principal's goals are wrapped up in this. Barb, Mary, Greg's, everybody's goals are wrapped up in this, and we're working focused together to try to get better. So that is it. Thank you guys very much. I just did that for the picture. For the activates.
Thank you, Ken. Are there any updates from board members?
Maybe I should mention, McGaff, that,
I'm like, okay, I have something to say. The CAF is having a big event. Wednesday, September 20th.
no, Thursday, September 17th.
Thursday, September 17th.
Good thing you say it's Terry.
I think it's a great event. I will be out of town, so I have already purchased raffle tickets. There happens to be someone from the board of McCaff here that may want to say something, since I was told that's why he's here tonight.
All right, if I do it now?
Why not? It's McCaff.
Okay, my name is Ray Mick. I am on Board of Education at District 62, and this is my third term, so I do appreciate what you're doing. I'm also one of those retired teachers. I taught school for 30 years in District 62 and 64. And I now joined the board at McCaff. I am a real proponent of education. Education does work. I'm going to start out with a story. Because McCaff is about prevention, first offenders especially, and how to do it. We want to give an alternative to getting in trouble right away. I have a personal experience with, I have lots of children, lots of grandchildren. I have a personal experience of a grandchild who did get in trouble at Maine West. He did get in trouble. He should have gotten in trouble. But he right away was, not right away, but was suspended for a few days. And he learned his lesson, thank God he did. I'm glad it happened. But I was thinking, as I got into McCaff, wouldn't it have been better if if there was an alternative offered to him, it's because when he came back after 5 days of missing school, it was hard for him to climb back into where he was educationally. Understand what I'm saying? So I'm not saying that she shouldn't have been left out, but what if he had an alternative where he could continue to go to school and yet have another kind of school maybe once a week where they would not only help him self-esteem wise, but help him understand addictions. We're not an addiction person, but addictions, drug use, prevention, all kinds of things about it. For first offenders, we're not talking about somebody who's been picked up by the police 4 times and is not going to make it. We're talking about people for the first time. So what we're asking from CAF is if you would give us what is the word I want?
Money.
No.
A waiver.
A waiver, thank you, for a room, so we have to have some place to do this. You know, I was thinking of asking District 62, but that's, elementary school is not a place where high school kids should be coming in, my idea, to do something like that. So
Have you worked with the district to determine the room and potential cost?
well, that's what I'm here for.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, it's later on.
So
Yeah.
there is,
There is a
so
request
this-
for the agenda tonight.
Yeah, it's like,
But I think, but you could also talk about our event too, if you want,
Well, we have an event.
and what we're doing.
We have a big event, which Dr. Collins is the one who really puts it all together, and it was very successful last year. The only way we get money is to raise money. Everything is volunteer. We have no paid people on the board. Everybody's working their butts off to get something together for the purpose of first-time offenders and presenting a positive approach for people who need to learn more about this topic, which I heard a lot of things tonight which you guys already see, you understand what the problem is. And I taught school for 30 years, so, you know, teaching about prevention, teaching about drug, as a teacher, at that time, I am now a counselor. I work at Holy Family, Peace Recovered. I work in treatment, that's what I'm asking about, but I know a lot about it. I've been there for 22 years. I'm really good at it. I have a whole understanding of drugs than when I was doing it out of a book. Does that make sense to you? When I was teaching out of a book, I don't think I was very effective. I mean, I thought I was good, but now I really get it. I understand the problem. I understand what needs to be done. Does anybody have any questions about? I think we can do a good job. We're all very interested. We're active. We're involved. We are educator proponents. We'll do anything for education. I did, when you told your teacher's salary, my teacher's salary in 1961 started $44,250.
That was a good salary back then, though.
I had a lot of children, no, hey, I liked doing what I did, and I thought District 64 was great, and so is 62. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
Just a quick question related to, what do we do as a district, generally speaking, as opposed offenders like in that situation?
That's part of that's wrapped up in this, because one of the ways that students can reduce penalties, either for athletic or academics, is to go through a treatment program, and so we see this as a really vital part of options for students to help them.
Thank you. Any other board member updates? I have an update on the finance committee, August 12th. Sean?
Finance committee met at 5:30 that day, and we covered 4 topics. The 2015-16 budget, which we noted is going to be a decrease in revenue, estimated $1.1 million, primarily due to cuts in the state. The final proposed expenditures are increasing by $3.4 million, therefore creating a deficit situation. We discussed policy 6830, which was an issue of the waiver of school fees
Buildings and Grounds met on August 12th as well at 5:35, as well as today, September 8th at 5:30. On August 12th, Buildings and Grounds discussed Dave Ohm presented the summer construction projects for all the schools, highlighting all the work that's being done with a special emphasis on the work at Midwest Athletic Edition. Specifically, there was numerous change orders that were addressed and were recommended to be brought to the board. In fact, have to be brought to the board because by law, any change order of $10,000 has to be brought for approval to the board. It was recommended at the end of that meeting on August 12th that those recommendations for the change orders be taken to the board due to other change orders arising or other circumstances that needs additional change orders. We had an additional meeting today, as stated at September 8th at 5:30, where those change orders were outlined. There's four specifically over the amount of $10,000. There's a total change order for that project over $4,000, which this board has requested its recommendation to the committee as of today to take those change orders to the board.
Very much. Monthly status of finance.
In your board packet is the July financial statements. You can tell that expenditures, you have to remember in July and August, we don't pay 10-month salaries. So that's why the expenditure trend is always slightly lower than a typical month. But you can see that revenue and expenditures are in line as a percentage with our historical information. It's pretty early in the year, so I won't forecast how we'll end the year yet. It takes months out. But I will entertain any questions that anybody has on the July financial report.
Are there any questions?
I did, real quick, when you see a salary number for anyone, is that always is it always like the 10-month or 12-month? Or is it like spread out over 12 months for, like, when you see a financial report, is there, do you know what I'm asking?
So, yes, I think I know what you're asking. So for 10-month salaries, since the district is on an accrual basis, and because your commitment to earn that salary ends in June, all of your July and August paychecks are charged to June. Because your obligation to us occurred in that fiscal year. 12-month employees are on a July 1 contract, so their July and August salaries are charged to July and August. In addition, 10-month employees get to make an election to have their pay spread over 20 checks or 24 checks. So they make that election every year. So it's not, you can't pinpoint an exact figure of salaries. You kind of do a hybrid approach because there's not a lot of people who elect 20 pays because most people like to have the cash flow over the summer, even though their obligation to us is spent with them.
So even if you do the 24-month, you still accrued that, you still got to put the money in June?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Thank you, Mary. Instructional services, or not this one? Thank you. Other than Ken, monthly update on Twitter requests.
To this month, both of which have been responded to.
Next, Board of Education policies and procedures, first reading waiver of school fees. Mary.
As we prepared for this year, we noticed that our waiver of school fees the policy didn't match our practice. So we took a look at the press policy and found that press had a really good policy that was slightly more generic than ours, that covered all the salient points. One of the differences in our practice is that fee waiver appeals have traditionally come over to the business office to be addressed by myself so that we have some consistency across the district in what we're looking for. The other change that was recommended by our attorney is that we put in a sentence that the information that we collect will just be simply for approving or denying fee waivers, and we won't use it for any other purpose, because we do ask for a substantial amount of information. So the new policy is 98% press with the small change from our attorney. It our needs and matches our practice and covers all the same influent points in our old policy. It was discussed with the finance committee as it's a financial policy, so we routed it through finance.
Are there any questions on the policy? This is a first reading, so we'll be back next month for approval.
Yes.
All right, so if we dig in and we see something, please let everyone. Can I have a motion on item 7A, please?
Separate,
Yes.
some.
Second.
All right, Maybe you can call the roll on item 7A.
Lee. Childers. Aye. Collins. Aye. Bowen. Aye. Sullivan. Aye. Bessler. McGrath.
Abstain.
Let's move 7B through G.
Oh, you know what, can I change it, because minutes were August 3rd, I wasn't here, so I was gonna see it.
Motion for 7B through G?
Yes.
Sean, and a second for that?
Second.
Well, thank you. Any questions or comments before we vote? Hearing none, Judy, take the roll, please.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Bowen. Aye. Lee.
Aye.
Collins. Aye. Childers. Aye. Bessler. Aye. McGrath.
Aye. And a motion on item 8, approval of District 207 budget for 2015-2016. Are there any questions or comments on the budget before we vote? Hearing none, we'll take the roll, please.
Bessler. Childers.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Lee. Bowen. Aye. Sullivan. McGrath.
Aye. Can I have a motion on item 9, use of facilities?
Move item 9 to A and B.
Second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question, discussion? I see that one of these is the McCaff waiver for room usage fees that came up during the board comments. Like that, and the display space department. Are there any questions or comments about these waivers?
And the CAP, that's gonna be an ongoing use of our classroom. Is it on the weekends?
On Saturdays, and the way I wrote out the waiver was to include every Saturday, just because, I don't know, I kind of want no one to come, right, because then no one would have a problem, but and for sustainability purposes, I want at least a few people to come. So, we don't know when we're gonna have it, like if we're gonna do assessments one Saturday, and then the class the next Saturday, but I don't know if it'll be all 4 Saturdays, but I put down the worst case scenario, so. If that's okay.
Physical location will be where?
At Main South and, probably in C-108. So that number it was high when I looked at it, but it was because we did the maximum.
And we historically, have used the rooms like this. There's a precedent.
And it's within the policy for the 501c3 organization.
And it's part of the reason for the waiver request is to provide an affordable alternative to our students. One of the things that I think the buildings would agree is that part of the buyback program obstacle is finding an affordable program for them. So we thought that this was a way to put that out there so that more students would take advantage of the buyback program.
And we can do that, but other organizations aren't gonna do that, like peer services or any of the ones that are outside of our area. So I think it's a big advantage to Maine Township students.
You said there might be using on weekends.
Scheduled on Saturdays.
Weekends on Saturdays, Sunday.
It will be non-school days.
But our schools are closing on particular weekends, that means of the janitorial services.
Our schools are always open. It's the rare if you could count on probably 2 fingers the number of days in a year that our schools aren't open. For something, there's always somebody here. Yeah. And we have custodial staff on the weekends.
Regular custodians, not because of this.
Not because of that.
Higher or.
Won't impact it. It's a good question, though.
Sounds like a really good use of space.
Well, if she needs it, that's all she is.
Are there any other questions or comments? Jamie, could you go up, please?
Childers. Aye. Bessler. Lee.
Aye.
Bowen. Aye. Sullivan. Collins.
Abstain.
McGrath.
Aye.
A motion on item 10, approval of bids and awarding of contracts.
I'd like to move 10A.
10A. Okay, have a second for item 10A, please. That is the Maine West Athletic Addition change orders. Thank you. Okay. Maybe a little background on.
Sure.
Change orders is in order.
As with any construction project, there are things that come up. So Illinois law requires that any change order greater than $10,000 be approved by the Board of Education. We have 4 change orders that exceeded the $10,000 threshold. We have a total to date of 10 change orders. We've got several more months of the construction project going on, so it is possible that we would be bringing another change order above 10,000 to the board. However, we're coming to the end of parts that are unknown in the project. So, you know, the last couple months are spent on the finishing elements, that they're not digging up any hole and looking at soils, or they're not, you know, attaching piping or finding lead-based paint at this point. So that's the good news. So before you this evening is the recommendation to approve the 4 change orders over $10,000. These change orders were discussed in detail at the Buildings and Grounds Committee meetings.
So will they be hiring a new crew or new company in addition to the GC, or will be the same?
No, this is still the same. So how a change order works is whatever subcontractor that area is does the pricing. We review that pricing to see, is that a reasonable pricing? We get the detailed itemization costs for that change order and look at that before we would approve it. So each of these contracts expands the contract with the general contractor, who then expands the contracts with the subcontractors. And one of the reasons that they're looking forward to these change orders is you cannot, until a change order is approved, we will not pay on a change order. So they cannot draw down any of these change orders until they're approved.
And again, what's the very rough percentage of minority-owned possibly businesses or women-owned businesses, percentage-wise, that might be investments in another project?
We know that because it was awarded to a general contractor, that general contractor then has the obligation to hire all their subcontractors. Under Illinois law, we do not have a minority set aside, nor can we consider minority contractors as a criteria in awarding the contract. We must go with the lowest responsible bidder.
So at the same time, the GC also does not have a responsibility to hire women-owned businesses or minority-owned business percentage.
Correct.
Right? So we could ask, right?
We could ask, however, I think because their award criteria is based on lowest responsible bidder, it might not, I think what they're looking for is the subcontractors that have the reputation at the cheapest cost in order for them to get the best, lowest bid, because that's what would be our award criteria.
We can ask the vendors register with the district, with the architects as comparing the bid. Can't ask as a criteria for evaluation. Call the question.
Are there any other comments? Okay. Thank you.
Lee.
Aye.
Childers. Sullivan. Bessler. Collins. Bowen. McGrath.
Aye.
I'd like 10, A through D.
Point of order. I'm going to stay on 10B.
And I'll move 10B separately.
Can I ask you a question about B?
Oh, that's good.
Yes,
I'll second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Okay, questions?
For the advocate program is only for Maine West and Maine East, and, right?
I'm not involved, or no, I work for Advocate, I'm not involved.
Yes.
Okay, weird. So it's only for Maine West and Maine East, but, and it said in the thing that Maine South has a separate program. But at the same time, the freshmen and sophomore in Maine South, at least this is what I understand, they don't have
There is no Illinois requirement to have a physician on the sideline. Given the size and intensity of the higher level games, and I found out this is true at every school, the physicians on the sideline are at the higher level games.
So they're not at the, because when the meeting, I did
Correct.
say that we
And-
thought they
and-
were at a
correct.
freshman and sophomore.
And they are not.
Okay, they're not.
It is only the two games, the varsity and JV games that are stacked back to back. We always have training staff on site, we always have coaches on site, and we always have the ability to call 911 in the event of emergency.
And, but, the part of that agreement was the concussion evaluation. So is the concussion evaluation though for the whole program?
No, it's just for East and West because they're
For the whole
only.
football program, freshman through senior.
Yeah, right, is it
And
freshman through
actually any
senior?
athletic, so any student, because this is more than a football agreement. These trainers, these medical doctors do their rotation throughout the entire year.
Right.
So they're learning how to take a basketball player as well as a football player and what, ankle supports a track runner needs in the spring. So they do the whole gamut of training room rotation throughout the entire year.
But I guess what I was wondering is that if the concussion evaluation could be expanded to 3 schools, because that sounds like, I don't know that that's done at Maine South, is that?
So anytime a
true?
student gets a concussion, they need to have a medical doctor sign off on a return to play.
But not but it's not that, I understood from what we talked about before that it was like a concussion evaluation.
So Illinois state law just came out with a new concussion protocol, which lays out, and we've been for years, had an extensive concussion protocol. In that protocol, what Advocate is doing is getting involved in the athletes, because those are the students that they see. So they
Right.
feel comfortable that in the training room, when they're seeing these athletes with a concussion, that they can participate in that process.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I just
So
wondered if you.
we're
you could-
looking at South's agreement, and it's gonna take us some time to
Okay.
get into it, to look at what do their doctors do, what's the capacity there. But every student who has been diagnosed with a concussion has a medical doctor sign off before they can return to
But
play.
I also thought I heard you say, ask if they had a treatment protocol for concussions, and the answer to that is yes.
Yes,
they do.
I know there's a treatment protocol, and I know that they get screened, and I know there's baseline and all that stuff. But what I thought I read in that agreement with the intern residents was that for West and East, there was like a more comprehensive
And part of what
program.
the Illinois law also was, before its final version, there was language that said a district employed doctor would sign off. And then when we saw that language, we wanted to embed that in that policy, because if during the course of this agreement now, that becomes law, we've covered ourselves on 2
Sure,
schools.
sure.
That we have a medical doctor via a contract that can do that sign off. They since dropped that provision because I think they realized that it's, every school district in the entire state of Illinois can't hire doctors to get involved in their sign off and concussions.
No, I thought it was a brilliant program to get the residents involved. It's a lower cost, and that I just was thinking that it could be spread against all 3 schools, especially in terms of like comprehensive concussion evaluation, because sometimes it varies from MD to MD. And frankly, the concussion evaluation is, it has a wide margin of error. You know, they can score higher than they did. I mean, when you take the test, you can actually score higher than when you first started, after you hit your head. So, I mean, there's a lot of error in that test. So, it's just that anything that makes it more comprehensive and more uniform, thank you very much, would be a good thing. But I think the program is a good thing.
Quick question, so is that $10,000 per year automatically our district pay to the Lutheran General Hospital, whether this, how many case by cases?
The 10,000, so we have residents in our schools a minimum of 2 days a week. Many times they're longer based on their rotation. So the $10,000 is really more for covering the medical malpractice for having those residents come over from the hospital and be in our buildings. So regardless of concussions, regardless of football games, residents are in our training rooms on a rotational basis.
But Jen, if I heard you right, I think your issue is, could it be a higher cost if they saw more students? I don't think, it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
I believe the maximum exposure is $20,000 annually.
Correct.
On the increase in the med mal insurance, and so that's really what you're paying is the med mal.
So for example, this is not our first year, so assuming like last year, for example, or before that, Maine East and Maine West, roughly what percentage of professions we had, how many cases we need their assistance, help? We have some kind of numbers and data or something?
Well, I would argue with you that every year is different. Every football game is different.
Yeah, but there's historical perspective here. We could look back to the last 2 years or 3 years.
Well, ask me that question in a year,
No, what about the
and I'll
last?
probably, but because right now, in our past years, we have been collecting our data with pencil and paper. So in order to analyze some of that, we now have to go pull we just now purchased a software program that will allow us to track student accidents, whether they're in school or athletic accidents comprehensively, and then search on certain criteria, for instance, concussions. So then we can make decisions based on the information that we're seeing and look for trends. And that was an initiative through our insurance cooperative, so that can provide information to our risk manager and take it back to the safety committees to make, so as.
I mean, that's fine, just, what we're interested is, based on the previous record of, previous years of situation, has been $10,000, has been reasonable, and has there been more cases or not? It's kind of like something.
Right, and the 10,000 is just not for the concussion, it's for having them here in our training rooms. They're doing rehab, so if a student has a ACL injury during basketball season, they're looking over the rehab sheets for that ACL injury and making sure, and working with the student to see that they're doing the proper rehab to get them to return to play. So it's more than concussions, it's the whole gamut of training activities that we offer to our students. And we have very comprehensive programs for our athletes.
Well, I think it's good for the students, athletics and so on. Basically, this $10,000, what is this coming from? Which budget? Is it general operating fund?
It's the general operating fund budget within the athletic department.
So Mary, historically, how did it happen that South was on a different program? I mean, advocates in Park Ridge, I don't understand.
I think the honest answer would be there was a group of doctors that got interested in the Maine South program, and they came to South and has historically had a group of doctors who are very invested in the school. That wasn't the case, so we partnered with Advocate years ago for the other two schools.
So is there going to be a consistency where
We
are now
are
going to
looking at
have
the
all
Maine South agreement to see if there are elements of the Advocate agreement that we want to bring in, if there's some more formality. So we will be spending probably the next couple of months going through that and taking a look at it. We may find that there are multiple doctors on the Maine South sideline just because of the way things are, but we're looking at standardizing. But
But
our
they get
most
paid
important
for
thing,
their services.
we're not paying for their services.
So
Maine
they're
South
doing
is
this gratis?
free. Yes.
It just seems there should be some consistency amongst the three schools.
Yeah, the consistency is that we have a physician on the sidelines during competitions or higher level football, and there is a physician presence in our training room. So I don't want to give the impression that there's no consistencies amongst the schools.
Yeah, but it's a volunteer. I mean, they're doing it for free, so if they get called away to something else, hopefully we have backup. I mean, it should be more professional, I would think.
I
Either
and I
never had
can't
an
speak
issue.
to
It doesn't,
if we've ever.
that doesn't sound, let me just check here. We have an agreement with them whereby they've agreed to provide certain services at certain times. We're just not paying for those services.
We have an agreement.
Okay,
with
so let's
the
make-
train, right,
a written
I want to.
agreement?
Let's make, we have a written agreement.
I've asked for and have yet to receive from the trainers department the written agreement that they have. So
Let's wait
I
till we
know that, you know, so I am confident that we have physicians on the sideline, and I think Sean, who's at every home football game, probably can attest to the
I
fact
can't
that
guarantee you
there
there,
are
because I
physicians on
talked to
our
them.
sidelines. So I don't want to give you.
We had quite a few injuries.
Yeah, we had 4 injuries.
Yeah.
There is an agreement that does exist with them. I know because I first talked to my nurse about it, especially when we are doing things like concussions and following up and things of that nature. There is a practice that we deal pretty much exclusively with for this. So yeah, it's just
Yeah,
about going
and
back
I
and
think
saying, what do
we
we want to
took-
be doing as a district with it?
We took this as an opportunity that the Maine East and Maine West agreement was expiring. Both Advocate and Maine came at the table to wanting to more formalize the agreement.
Absolutely.
So that is kind of how this
I
got
mean, in
started.
2015, we're just starting from for
And
pencil
we're
and
now
records.
looking,
That scares me.
now we're looking to do a similar thing with Maine South, is to just, you know, here's the agreement in place, when it expires, we're gonna put more formalization to it. I mean, we're doing the same thing with the school-based health center. We're going through and formalizing things.
Well, good that you're doing that. Okay, so, but that will, you'll be
That
bringing
will
that
be
to the
coming.
board at some point in time in the
Yes.
future when it's more formalized.
Correct.
Okay, and so, at this point in time, are there any more questions on the agreement that relates to Maine East and Maine West?
I call the question.
Take the vote.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Bessler. Lee. Childers.
Aye.
Owen. McGrath.
Aye. Can I have a motion on 10C and D, please?
So moved.
Second.
Second, all right. Are there any questions about item C, which is the Medicaid fee waiver, fee service for special education, or D, which is special education outside of placement tuition agreement?
Sure. This is a request for the board to enter into an agreement with RNG Consultants. They're our third-party billing service. They work with us looking at our special ed, roster for special ed students in order to kind of review and scrutinize that list to maximize the eligibility and Medicaid reimbursements we'll get. They look at any rejected claims and try to figure out why that is and perhaps resubmit them. And it covers a range of services that include, as noted in the boardwalk, things from nursing services to OT, psych services, et cetera, et cetera. This is requesting their fee, which is 5% of the reimbursements we got. Last year, 14-15, we received over $250,000 for Medicaid billing, and they got 5% of that, which is about $12,500.
Absolutely, 5%.
Is that gonna take a hit too with the state?
And everything is up for grabs.
Yeah.
You know, you could ask that question about everything, Terry, and, you know, everything's up for grabs.
Yeah. So this is to maintain the 5%.
But this at least is attached to the performance, is what they collect is, you know, so they have expertise in this, and frankly, you couldn't pay a staff member enough to.
Oh, no, they probably know how to get more money.
Yeah, and they do, that's what they specialize in. They have a vested interest in it, in fact.
And then we have a couple of tuition agreements, and
Right. NSSEO, this is an agreement with them for about 9 students who are either going to be at minor school or Kirk school. They're
for these particular students. It's the same
And so-
for tuition dollars.
So these students are, just some perspective, when I started in 2005, we had about 200 kids out of district place.
Well, that's
That
what
was
I was
special
gonna bring up,
ed.
just
So
2 years ago,
so-
there was double that number.
So we're down to about 50, and that's non-special ed, the bulk of these
Overall.
are special ed overall.
All the placements, not
And
just minor.
this is just a small group of kids. You know, we started the low incidence program at East. These are our neediest students, which is reflective of the high cost per pupil tuition rates here that you're talking about. And we still continue to ask the question of these students, how many of these could we accommodate and those types of things. So this is, I want to say, Mary and I were on the budget the other day. At one point, our tuition, special ed tuition line was 12 million, and it's 5 million now, I think. We've really worked to get that number down. But these are just very needy students, and these are the best local placements available for them.
Any other questions? Judy, if you'll call the roll, please.
Owen?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Childers?
Aye.
Bessler? Collins? Sullivan? McGrath?
Aye. Motion on item 11, the intergovernmental agreement with Oakland. Paul?
I should say.
Are there any questions or comments on this agreement? I guess this is an agreement that's, we're re-upping on this agreement. This is the information that we've been sharing before. Are there any questions or comments?
Someone, please?
This is helping us understand the trajectory of our students that leave us and go to Oakton, their success rates, and so we're backwards engineering, trying to figure out what course paths they've come through, their success rate at Oakton, and it's really just, it's data that we've shared with Oakton for probably decades, frankly, to help us try to get better at placing students and making sure they get the right courses.
So again, I know our district students, major fees are attending the community college.
Not the majority, not the majority. It's the, if you took all of the places that our students go, it's the #1 destination. But a majority of our students don't go there, but it's the single biggest destination for all of our district students. And we are the #1 supplier of students to Oakland, as we should be, we're the biggest district in their footprint.
And I also see that on Niles Township also, they have a high population of students, graduates also attending.
So does Evanston, so does Glenbrook, and so does New Trier.
So from addition to those schools, after 2 years, again, we do not have the data of where they transfer possibly to
Some do.
other.
We do some of it's on the clearinghouse data that we saw earlier. If they go, to Illinois State or University of wherever that are in the clearinghouse, we actually do have the data.
Yeah, so, maybe Barb can get some information from you about where people go after Oakton.
That'll be part of our report from the initial clearinghouse that will come out in a month or two.
Okay.
So we'll work at it.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions about the intergovernmental agreement with Oakton for the data sharing information they provide us? No? Hearing none, Jenny, to take the roll, please?
Childers?
Aye.
Lee?
Aye.
Collins?
Aye.
Sullivan? Owen? Bessler? McGrath?
Aye. Next up is calendar items.
Just want to stress, October 21st is the ISB North Polk Fall Dinner. If you're interested, let Jenny know and she can get you signed up for that. 21st. Wyndham, Glenview. Let's see, our October, Meet the Teacher night at all 3 buildings is Thursday night. One of the things that came up is this September meeting, we seem to always do it the Tuesday after the Labor Day Monday. Not for long discussion now, but if there's interest in maybe considering not doing it on the Tuesday following Labor Day, probably let us know and we could make plans for next year, go the following week if there were interest in board members
the next, the October meeting, 2 weeks.
No, the September meeting next Monday.
September would be like
One
next
week,
Monday.
1 week from
I'm sorry,
Labor Day.
Ken's bringing up, what did you say, Ken?
No, I said, a couple of folks have said, because we normally do the September meeting, the Tuesday after the Monday
Right.
of Labor Day. If there's interest, we could do the September meeting next week, like next Monday, for example, instead of Tuesday.
Right, it would be 2 weeks then until the next meeting.
It was late this year.
Next year will be a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad idea.
Well,
I think it should be, I think it should be a year-by-year determination because of the shifting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
every 7 years.
Yeah, this year probably wouldn't be a good idea, but next year it might work out a little better.
And just for my, if you look later on today, you're gonna see the personnel agenda, pushing that back another week, specifically if it's a late Labor Day. There may be some people that may not accept jobs that we offer them because they won't get approval for so late, so that's something to consider.
Okay.
good point.
Yeah, good point. Even the last Monday in August, depending on how it goes. How does that not slip through the cracks then? How are we gonna address that?
Well, when we do the calendar in May, Jenny's gonna put a note down to remind us to do this.
Jenny's putting a note down.
That's how.
Calendar discussion,
Jenny's
please.
gonna put the glue between the cracks.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. That's what she does on a regular basis.
All right, next up is communications, public comments. Are there any comment cards back there? Okay. Do we have?
Excuse me,
No.
do you have to fill out a comment card, ask a question?
Are there some blue cards right there? Just right there, go ahead and we'll.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
It takes a second, real quick, Dave can help you.
Yeah. Yes.
Mr. Reinhardt, if you would just stand, state your name, and tell us what you're here for, please.
Yes, my name is John Reinhardt, and I have 2 children going to District 207 schools. And this is time of year when we start to get a bunch of flyers and information asking for donations to various organizations and the like. And in aid of responsible giving, I decided I would look into some of the organizations to try to figure out who runs them, how they spend their money. There are lots of things on the District 207 website advertising the organizations, but I couldn't find any information about, or at least some of them, as to who runs them. I couldn't find, I would occasionally get a list of things they had done, but I saw nothing actually, well, these are the financials for this organization for the 2014 to 2015 year. And I didn't see any board information for some of them. At least one of the organizations seems to be run by an individual who is apparently getting thousands of dollars of money from people around. I suspect that parents think that this board or the district is overseeing the organizations. I did send an inquiry on the website to somebody. I don't think it was Ms. Blue. I sent an inquiry. I didn't get any response as to whether there was a policy in place.
When did you send that?
About a month ago.
Okay. The person who would normally answer those has been tied up in grand jury duty for about 5 weeks.
I didn't get a response, and I looked through the policies, and I didn't see any policy.
And these are all on our website?
Some of them. So, and they raise money at district events, and oftentimes they're run by district personnel, teachers. And it gives me some concern that, I mean, some of these organizations are asking for contributions of $500, $1,000. That's an awful lot of money to be solicited off of district websites. And then gathered without donors necessarily having access. Now, if the board's looking after it and monitoring it, okay, then we have a check. But I couldn't see any policy or information that information was being pulled. Now, obviously, by the way, I'm not talking about, I don't know, is there a French club? A French club where, you know, every student is asked to contribute $5. You know, there's a de minimis thing here. But as I said, some of these organizations are collecting thousands of dollars.
I'm on the website now. What site are you citing that are on the website?
Well, okay, for example, Maine South has, I didn't want to really get this.
Yeah,
just email me.
Could you send a list of them to Ms. Kalu, and she will investigate and report back to the board on that?
Okay.
Actually.
Thank you very much.
Hang on a second. Well, we're going to.
Why don't you do that, because we're going to go into closed session. Do we have a motion to go into closed session for review of closed session minutes?
Yes.
Appointment, employment, compensation, performance, or dismissal of employees, probable imminent or pending litigation, and collective negotiating
I
matters.
so move.
Second. If you could take the roll, please.
Childers. Aye. Lee.
Aye.
Bowen. Aye. Collins.
Aye.
Sullivan. Bessler.
Aye. All right, we are in closed session, thank you.
Second.
10:21 p.m. The one without the raspy voice.
She wished.
The tape's on.
Yes. Take the roll. Lee.
Aye.
Childers. What was the motion?
To
return open session. Collins.
Aye.
Sullivan.
Aye.
Bowen. Bessler. McGrath.
Aye. Can I have a motion on item 16A through G, I'm leaving H for later.
16A through G, so
Second.
Personnel action,
No, it was me. My voice was getting nasty. It's the late hour.
take the roll, please.
Sullivan. Owen.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Childers.
Aye.
Bessler. McGrath.
Aye. I have a motion on 16H that the board approves the previously mentioned personnel items and administrative, that approves the administrative goals as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Ginny, if you'll take the roll, please.
Bessler. Childers. Collins.
Lee.
Aye.
Owen.
Aye.
Sullivan. McGrath.
Aye. Item 17, compliance reports.
So moved.
There's no, it's informational, no voting.
We are required by law, before we post these two compliance reports on our website by August 1st, to share them at a regularly scheduled board meeting with the Board of Education.
Sure, thank you. Next item 18, approval of closed session minutes. Recommendation that the Board of Education approve closed session minutes from July 6th, 2015, as amended. And can we do it as two separate?
I would do it as two separate items.
Yes. So we have a motion on the July 6th minutes as amended.
So, were you there, Sean? So moved. So moved. Did you move?
You want, you
Or
move
second.
second.
You have a Collins move.
All right, would you call the roll?
Childers.
Aye.
Collins.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Bessler.
July 6th.
Aye. Owen. Aye. Sullivan. McGrath.
Aye. Okay, can I have a motion to approve the closed session minutes from August 3rd, 2015?
So moved.
Second.
If you take the roll.
Collins.
Aye.
Owen. Aye. Sullivan. Bessler. Lee.
Aye.
Childers.
Aye.
McGrath.
Abstain. Okay, motion on item 19, closed session minutes, semi-annual review. The recommendation regarding,
I'll move 19, A, B, C, and D.
thank you. Second. Any comments or discussions?
I have a question. In going through the list of the things that are not suggested for,
Be careful since we're in open session as to what you say.
okay, all right, thanks. So, if, so the reasons, there's a list of reasons why things, or what was discussed.
Right.
And, so who decides whether or not they're open or closed?
Well, the closed session minutes.
Okay.
The question is whether or not we
I
release
mean,
them to the public.
that's what I meant.
That's what we vote on right now as, when I first got elected to the board, we had 300-400 sets of minutes that were held back. Ken, Jake, and I have gone through them over the years and brought forth the ones that we thought could be brought forth. And these are the ones that have some reason that we feel that can't be brought forth at this time. Doesn't mean in the future we wouldn't bring the same one up 6 months from now and suggest that it be released. But it's whether or not it has any impact either on students that are still here, staff that are still here, or upon future
okay.
negotiations.
Okay,
Litigation.
yeah, okay.
You know, once litigation has been settled, no problem with us turning around and releasing the items, but if there's still potential pending litigation, we don't release those minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions? Happy to clarify that. No, Jane, can you take the roll?
Bessler. Aye. Collins.
Aye.
Owen. Aye. Lee.
Aye.
Childers. Aye. Sullivan.
Aye.
McGrath.
Aye. Is there any other action we need to take in closed session items? No. Okay. Can we get a motion to adjourn?
At 10:26.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.